Hello, welcome to JavaScript for Programmers. So the audience, you know a computer language that uses the basic syntax of the C programming languages. Languages like C, C++, Java, and C#. Areas where the syntax is identical or very close are not covered. For example, most control structures like while loops and for loops. We're going to focus on where the language requires you to think differently. For example, Boolean expressions used by control structures have subtle differences in JavaScript. So about JavaScript. Brandon Eich created JavaScript at Netscape, and it was released in 1996. JavaScript enabled dynamic and programmable web pages. It has shaped the internet. It's impossible to think of ways social media and internet e-commerce sites work today. Their functionality would not be possible without programmability. And so for JavaScript, the browser is the computer, and its scope is the DOM, the Document Object Model. What's the Document Object Model? The Document Object Model is the in-memory representation of what the browser parsed the HTML into. So recall the HTML is set up into head and body areas, and those begin tree structures that are divided, and with each branch of the tree and each node of the tree defined by an element in the HTML. Once the HTML is parsed and the CSS and also embedded JavaScript, as we'll see, the document object model is built, which is an in-memory representation of the page, and then JavaScript acts on that. That's its data, that's its input and its output, and it's working in the context of the browser. For example, JavaScript working in the context of the browser doesn't see the physical machine underneath it. It doesn't see directly any of the resources of the physical machine. It sees the browser as its resource, and it can do only what the browser allows in that environment, which is far more restricted than what you're used to in programming in other languages that are running on the desktop or running on the computer. They already start out with a lot of permission level. For example, accessing the native resources of the computer. JavaScript in the browser environment can't do that. So JavaScript is a sophisticated language. So don't be, I think, put off. Sometimes I think people are get a wrong impression because it's called a scripting language, and that could imply easiness at some level. It's not. And it's very different from C and very different from Java, which might surprise you. JavaScript was a marketing name and really has quite a lot of differences between Java. And of course, it's not related at all to C#, but it's not related to Java either, or to C, other than copying the basic syntax of the expression of the language from C, which all of these languages do, and all of them could be, if you glance at a while loop or a for loop or even some kind of methods, class declarations, they all bear some similarities and they can be confused for one another. However, the ideas, the language philosophies underneath it, all of these languages are quite different from one another. JavaScript's no different. It's really the outlier of this family, quite different. So that's what we're going to focus on, the differences. So the references for our class, the AMD end page, a reintroduction to JavaScript. Excellent. It's written for programmers, and that essentially will form the initial outline for our course, and then we'll pull out some additional information from a page called the Modern JavaScript Tutorial, which is really much more than a tutorial. It's more like an online textbook that if you printed it out would probably be a huge textbook, 1,000 pages. So its address says JavaScript info, and you can take a look at that because I will include material from that as well. Thank you.